Welcome back to Leadership Lessons They Never Teach You. This is lesson 4. And this is where we look at the costs of where you're able to see something which other people can't see yet. What does it cost to be right before anyone around you is able to see it, let alone understand it? A client I worked with for a couple of years ran a family-owned business. It was third, fourth generational. And he was the acting CEO, the face of the company, respected by all parties. He was incredible at leading, delegating, incredible at managing, and really being able to extract the potential out of people. But one of his key strengths was also the ability to forecast. Partway through our work together, he had made the decision that he was going to step down as CEO, as he wanted to work himself out of that role entirely. And essentially, he wanted to move into a position that he was going to create for himself, one where he saw that there would be a better fit, he'd be more effective, and it would lessen risk and increase the longevity of the company. Part of that was heading up the philanthropic as well as the social impact of the organization. From the outside, that decision looks strange and possibly rather reckless. Why would someone that is so well positioned, so capable, that holds so much credibility, want to change position and not want to continue leading a company that's moving in the right direction? Shareholders weren't comfortable because he was essentially the tip of the spear and that go-to person. But he was choosing to deliberately build himself out of that position before he moved on. What he was seeing was something else entirely. What he was seeing was something that others couldn't see yet. The business needed a different kind of leadership to navigate what was coming. The pace of technological change, the 5 to 10 year plan, which needed someone else to hold and articulate clearly. And a big part of who he was someone that wanted to give back and be impactful. The company had similar values, but was not expressing it as it should. And in that, he realized that he could not lead this company from the position of CEO. So he carried the discomfort of being misunderstood. And he did this whilst he was doing the actual work, building a seamless handover and essentially prepping the successor who fortunately had enough trust and credibility within the company. And so they could understand the long-term vision on an intimate level, having worked alongside him. It took the shareholder some time to see what he'd already seen. The company would create more value and more cultural impact that way. And eventually they did. But he had to hold that vision alone for a while, being misunderstood by people who had every reason to trust him and still didn't at first. Every great leader eventually sees something that others can't see. And that's a really uncomfortable position. It's a lonely one. And leadership requires someone to be able to stand within a conviction before anyone else can understand or see it. There's a lack of context, and you have to be okay with being misunderstood. That's just part and part of the deal. And the temptation is to soften that vision so it's more agreeable, more digestible, and wait for consensus before moving. And I want to like it, and I liken this to Marcus Aurelius. He wrote about a similar trap almost 2,000 years ago. And his observation and meditations was that we tend to care more about what other people think of us versus a clear, honest judgment of ourselves, even though we claim to value ourselves more than anyone else. And it's strange because it's a very human contradiction. And it's exactly what makes being misunderstood so uncomfortable. And that's where the opinion of the room can outweigh the clarity that you already have. So courage, delayed validation, and consistency. And I think those are the pieces here that allow you to really lean into being misunderstood. Courage isn't loud or verbose. It's the willingness to keep questioning the assumption that maybe everyone else has put down or people don't think of. And the delayed validation piece becomes the discipline of planting something that other people aren't going to see. and you're just going to water it. And they're going to think that you're crazy for sitting there and wanting to water this thing. But you see something that other people don't see. And there's a willingness to be misunderstood within that. And it's funny, the consistency within that space is actually what ends up earning trust as you're going through this process. There's an art to being misunderstood while still being able to delegate and direct people through it. And I think it's a skill and a characteristic. You need to be able to speak to people's hearts and need to be able to have them buy in to a vision and something that they cannot see. And that requires trust. Trust in yourself and for them to trust you and your discernment. And all of this then comes back to that identity layer around leadership. A leader operating from personality needs the room's agreement or validation to feel steadfast in themselves. And that's where approval ends up substituting in for self-worth. When a leader has truly met themselves and knows themselves and is honest with themselves and they can operate from that authentic expression, their identity, they are then able to tolerate being misunderstood, hold a vision, maintain a certain level of discipline. And the room becomes clearer that their self-worth and their clarity and their decision is not dependent on them. So here's a question that I want to leave with you this week. Where are you quietly softening your vision to get agreement? Instead of staying faithful to what you feel, what you know, and what you see.